What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Blondes Building Equity. I have to point out, though, that Jess is brunette. It is now the talk of the town, and we have to rebrand, so we're really stressed out. I'm just kidding. But thank you guys so much for watching. We really just hit top 25 in business podcast. We appreciate you girls so much. And today we have a guest that I've been watching for probably 5 years, and I think I manifested this moment. He has inspired me so much, and he's done over $2 billion in real estate transactions, over 6,500 homes, and now owns hundreds of businesses. He is absolutely crushing it. I know we look up to him, and I'm sure you guys are going to after this podcast as well. So welcome, Kris Krohn. Thank you so much for coming on.
Man, top 25 on business. That's amazing. That's incredible. And I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you first get started?
You know, it all starts with a pretty woman. You know, my wife and I, we've actually been married for 21 years. And I don't know, I'm probably a little bit that hopeless romantic because when I met her, I was poor. I had no money. I sold her on the stream. I told her I was going to be a doctor. I'm in college. And none of those things really happened. But I wanted to give this woman everything. And she's given me 4 incredible children, and she's given me a best friend. And I have this incredible life with her. But she's been my motivation to really transcend some of the biggest problems in the world. And financially, most people, we get stuck in a game where we're not into equity. We're not into business. We're not into entrepreneurship. We're doing what our generation taught us. My dad was a German immigrant. He said, Kris, go to school, get good grades. Because he was an entrepreneur. He said, it's hard work. Don't do that. Get good grades. Work for somebody else for 40 years. They'll take care of you. You'll retire well. And, you know, when I was in college, my whole story started, I think, with a crappy telemarketing job that allowed me to talk to a couple thousand people my first year that had all followed that plan, except they were in their 50s. So they were like me 30 years into the future. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all of these people in their 50s and 60s, they went to college, they did the thing, they got the degree, they 401k, the IRA, they worked on paying off their house. And now they're stressed out of their mind because they have 10% of what they need for retirement. And I felt all of this stress and anxiety. And that's when I figured out college isn't for me. Working for somebody else isn't for me. I've got to figure out this whole money game. I've got to become a business owner. And honestly, that's what my wife was my motivation. And that knowledge is what caused me to go from a struggling business owner to a successful business owner and then wanting to own the world.
So did you start in real estate, or you just started in business and then elevated to real estate?
Actually, I started in the game of real estate. I didn't even know real estate was a business. It was for me like, no, you buy a house, you rent it out, and it pays you $500 a month. And you pretty much don't have to work. Because I was doing this thing called a rent-to-own, like a lease option, which meant instead of a straight rental, which is kind of a job, property management has some level of work to it. It's not totally passive, but a lease option was. So every time I bought a house, I got an extra $500 a month that I felt like I didn't have to work for. Plus my net worth was going up. Someone else was paying off the property. I liked it. And after I bought my second property, I was now living for free because our basement was rented out and it covered our mortgage. And the second house was paying us $600 a month. And it was my wife that came to me looking at the budget one day confused. And she said, Kris, I don't know what to do because we've got your job income, but then we have this money coming from real estate. I don't know what to call that. And even then I didn't call it a business. I just called it a rental property. And I said, well, what does it mean? She says, Kris, we're finally getting out of debt and we're getting ahead. She said, you need to buy more real estate. So I didn't know I was building a business. Yeah. I was just acquiring properties and learning how to do it with no money because I didn't have credit. I didn't have money. I didn't have everything. And 4 years later, I had 25 properties, a very basic portfolio then, but it paid me, you know, $12,000 a month, enough money that I was now graduating college. I didn't need a job and I was free because I had all my time. I had all my expenses covered and leftover money. So that's kind of how I kind of accidentaled myself into that first business.
Wow, that is so different, I feel like, than most people in real estate. I think that now the real estate influencer is such a thing that I think we're all kind of aware of the strategy. So kudos to you for actually just kind of paving the way and discovering that this was an amazing option. So my next question for you, though, is active versus passive income. When you're just acquiring rentals, what was your focus? And you said you were financially free, but how were you still earning that active income to keep buying more real estate?
You know, so I had that crappy telemarketing job. As my confidence grew in real estate, I started growing some courage. And this job had a commission component, and I started doing better at it because I kind of felt like, hey, real estate's going to set me free. But in the meantime, it will happen faster if I do well at my job. So, that next year I went from making $20,000 a year to $50,000. The year after I made $100,000, and my real estate kept competing and keeping up. And it was weird. Owning real estate built confidence for me because I felt like I was developing this FU energy. Like, I don't need you, boss. Like, I don't need you, employer. And yet it made me more brazen. I would find where in this company they were leaking money, and I would say, hey, let me take some extra time and help the company make money or keep money. And they said, well, sure, of course you can do that. And then in 6 months, I'd come back to them later and be like, see, I did it. I made the company an extra $2 million this year. Can I have an override? Can I have a piece of this? Every 6 months they would say yes. So I kept getting promoted. And it got to the point where at my job, I was making about $135,000 a year, but only working about 30 hours a week. Wow. And I just graduated college, and my real estate was outpacing it with my 25 properties. And so combined, I was making close to $300,000 a year. I was scared the morning I woke up and I turned to my wife and I'm like, honey, I think today is the day to quit my job. And she said, Kris, like go for it. Like you could have done this 2 years ago. Just do it. Oh. And the truth is I was kind of scared because I was walking away from guaranteed money. Yeah. But the coolest thing happened. I walk in my boss's office, and last minute I got scared again, and I asked for a $70,000 raise. And he laughed. Like, there was no way he was going to give me that. And when he laughed, I laughed, and I got the nervous jitters out, and I'm like, hey, this has been great. I got to go. When I quit that job, I tripled my income that year, because I'm telling everyone, if on your own, you can make enough money to compete with your job, think of it this way. When your boss pays you, let's call it $80,000 a year, they're looking to make a 400 or 500% ROI on you for their business to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So if they're paying you 80 grand a year, you better be producing $400,000 a year for them. Well, if they are, then why can't you produce $400,000 for yourself without needing the job? And that's what happened when I walked from my job, is just had this confidence all of a sudden, and my portfolio just started exploding, and then hundreds of homes became thousands of homes. And then one day I woke up and I realized I love the game of real estate, but really this is just a lucrative business. Mm-hmm. And there are other businesses out there. And that's when I automated everything in real estate and exited it. Like, I buy a house every day without money, without credit, but I'm putting no time and effort into it because I have such a great team and system. Well, I'm now building companies, machines that build machines, companies that build companies. So now it's like, oh my gosh, the game of making money in today's world, especially with AI, real estate's foundational, but I'm building all this business on top of it. And it's been a huge blessing. We live in a really, really privileged era.
I wanted to know, in the beginning, when you were more full-time with your job and you were working more than 30 hours a week, how did you have time? Was it just like you came home at 5 p.m. and then you worked an extra 3 hours finding real estate deals? Like, where did you find that time? Yeah,
I'm sad to say it. Like, because my father was a German immigrant, he totally raised me on that German immigrant like work ethic. And that meant that like Saturday morning when I wanted to be playing Mario Kart, my dad's like, go ahead, but you have to like pull all the weeds on this entire hillside. We owned 5 acres, and my dad took so much pride in our land. So he was always having me in the yard working. And I remember at one point, my dad had ordered like 10 tons of gravel, 10 truckloads, to basically fill in potholes for all of like the neighbors' streets, roads that we rarely used. And I remember one day just thinking, wait a second. It takes all day with a wheelbarrow carrying 100 pounds to put gravel in these, and then people speed down the road and the gravel flies out. And every 3 months to 6 months I'm doing this. Why is my dad doing this? And the light bulb went on. I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't need to do this. It's creating almost no community benefit. My dad's just teaching me to work. And so I've gone in on a really weird transition in my life where for me, the answer to your question was I was that 100-hour a week, could never turn my brain off. I was in college from 6 a.m. to 10. I would get to work by 11. I'd work till sometimes 7 or 8. Then I'd do the real estate in between it all, sometimes till 10. And in truth, I hated it and I loved it. Like, the part of me was like, my dad taught me to love work and I love it and I feel productive. And at one point, it all came to a point where I was like, oh my gosh, in my mid-20s, I'm having a midlife crisis. I hate my life because I feel like the motto of my life is work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not a high quality life. And so over the years, I've had to question a lot of things and tear things down. And there was a strategy. There was a moment when I was just doing it my dad's way, because my dad always said, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. If you want it done right, you do it yourself. You can't trust people, only you. And I had this moment where I finally said, you know what, Dad, I love you, but maybe if you want it done right, you should never do it again. And right then and there, I gave birth to delegation and team and people. And right now, in this very moment, I am in thousands of places at once. But the reason why I'm not there is because I believe in people. And people really is what causes all growth. So I was doing it all through hard work, and I've transcended that mindset, and I ain't never going back.
That's so empowering. So you work hard in the beginning and then delegated in the end.
And it takes the right type of person. I think that when we saw you at Ryan Pineda's conference on stage, and listening to your schedule that you have now, and the way that you time block, and how a lot of it is for your family, for yourself, for your fitness goals, and all these things, a beautiful life that we all desire to have, while you have these companies running themselves. And I think that requires immense leadership. And so I would love to, and that's not one of the questions here, but I would love to touch on that. Like, what is your biggest advice on leadership and delegation to actually trust people and allow it to run on its own?
I had a dear friend that unfortunately I only knew for about 2 years. He was one of the top 100 YouTubers in the world. His name was Grant Thompson. He owned a channel called King of Random, and collectively had over 1 billion views on these homemade science experiments. He would pull families together. Very cool guy. We became really, really dear friends with each other. And then one day he died unexpectedly in a paragliding accident. He fell from 2,000 feet in the air, just caught an awful wind pattern, freak accident, died, fell to his death, and left his wife and 4 kids behind. And it was so disruptive to my world, because that was the 3rd friend I had lost that year. And I'm not exactly old, right? I'm a young man. And it had such an impact. That's when I started questioning everything and saying, you know what? I got to do everything different. And part of that wasn't just locking in my ideal schedule of, first of all, realizing that 25 hours a week of work makes me happy. 30, less so. 20, less so. 25 is a magic number for me. The only way that I can double my income and my net worth every single year is by increasing my standards and by surrounding myself with better people. In fact, 80% of what I'm doing this year, I'm training 3 people to do for me next year. I'm always training my next protege. And so, we've all hired people, and we know what it's like to fork out money, and then know what it feels like when someone didn't deliver. And then we develop mistrust, or if you've been in a loving relationship that turns sour, then you develop mistrust. You know, you're just going to meet awful human beings, and sometimes you're the awful human being. And so we get into a mode that just says, I can't trust people. This is where most business owners will never get past gross revenues of $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million a year. And that's because they, as the rainmaker, we cap out. You can't really do beyond that unless you really truly learn to build a team. So part of trusting is actually recognizing that people aren't perfect. Number one. Number two, that if you hire a specialist that's better than you, then they're going to do it different than you, and different isn't bad. In fact, you have to, what you're not really doing always is trusting people. You're relinquishing how you want it done. So you have to release the control freak to say, hey, as long as you get to outcome, I'm cool. And then you see how they're doing it. You're like, no, that's not how I would do it. Pause. It's okay if they take a different road to Rome, as long as we all wind up in Rome. Who cares? So I have to release. And sometimes it doesn't go well, but the majority of the time it does. And it's better living that way than not. And then the last thing I would say is that it's not just trusting people. You have to invest in them first. Do they understand the corporate vision? Have you lined up compensation so that their goals are aligned with your goals? Do they have a reason to believe as much in your vision as you? And do they see their future in you like you see in them? Well, that means you have to spend time with them. You have to invest in them. There's leadership training. And so it's not like just hire and hope. It's actually hire and train. And then you build faith with time, and then you can walk, because you really have someone that can show up with your best interest in the company's and the vision's best interests, even when you're not there.
This has been a pivotal week, I feel like, in our business. And we were having this conversation with one of our employees yesterday. And so I just learned a lot from that, because we expected a lot from him in a lot of different areas.
And he wasn't getting paid a lot, but we expected a lot.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? He's really, really good at this. And you're upset when he's not good at this. I'm like, we really just got to let him take that area and run with it and compensate him better, probably.
Yeah.
Well, and part of it is you look at each other and just ask, Are we excited about our business model and our vision and our possibilities in our future? And at a partner level, hopefully everyone is a hell yeah. But then when you go to your management that helps you run things, do they feel as strongly? If you go to their teams underneath them, do they feel as strongly? There is a way to get everyone rowing in the same direction and pumped and excited. But it does take some effort. And sometimes it takes outside perspective or an outside mentor or a guide or someone that knows what they're doing before you. I needed that to help me figure out how to do a lot of these things. And there's a way to put that in place where you want everyone in your company is excited. If they're going to get a salary or bonus or whatever, they should find a way. You need to find a way to get them as excited about the vision as you are.
I like that. Get them excited as we are.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So now we've realized really you're a master at building businesses. And one of those big businesses is real estate. I just read your book. I was like, I want to finish this before we get on the podcast to kind of see your strategy. And I think it's a really unique strategy. So I would explain a little bit to the audience why you're different and what you kind of do with the single family real estate.
Well, first of all, everyone wants to be unique. And if you want to stand out, that's where you'll make the most money because riches are in the niches. And what you have to do is you have to niche down until you are one of a kind. Yeah. So I said, okay, there's 30 major real estate strategies. And I said, okay, so how am I going to be different? Well, I said, first of all, I'm not thinking about other people. I'm just, the reason why I was never going to make it in college that would get me onto being a doctor is because I really sucked at the sciences like chemistry and physics. However, statistics, I was first in my class out of 200 and I never did my homework. First time in my life I had that experience. I love numbers, and real estate, it is a game of people and it is a game of numbers. And I said, first I need to crack the code on the numbers. So what I did is I built an algorithm. I compared the top 30 strategies and I said, based on this following bias, I want to know which strategy is best. I want to perform the real estate investing that is going to take the least time, the least risk. It's got to be the least effort. It's got to be the most profitable, and it has to work in up and down markets and provide a service to people. So I had 6 criteria that I deemed most important to me. And after looking at all the strategies, something emerged. And what that reflects as today is I buy single family homes, short term, for generally 3 to 7 years only. I buy them in the best markets and I buy them below the median. And I will rent them out. And then if I've gotten the highest ROIs, I'm going to compound that into a bigger portfolio. An example would be, I got a 401k or an IRA or equity in a home, and I'm going to access some of that money, and I'm going to see if I can outperform the market's 30-year average of 6%, which is boring. And so you heard of this guy named Kris Krohn. He says, well, if you follow these steps, you can make 25, 30, 35, or 40% a year on your money. And you're like, crap, my money's doubling every other year. That's good. So you follow my system. And what you end up doing is going into one of the top markets. For example, I'll invest in Florida or Tennessee or Oklahoma or Alabama. And in these markets, there are places where at a macro level, you have the most population moving in. You still have affordability very, very high. You have homes below the median that are in the 200 to 225, $250,000 price range. You have population booming in those areas. You have the local economies investing billions of dollars. Companies are moving in. I have 10 factors that I use at the macro level to take 324 nationwide markets in the US and whittle it down to 5. So I say at a macro level, I'm going to find my top 5 markets, and I know those are the markets that are going to boom the most. This is like my strategy says, go back in time to San Diego or New York 100 years ago or 50 years ago before they boomed and bought there. Anyone wishes that they could have that moment. That's what I'm doing right now. So I go into those markets and what I do is I isolate this real estate and I find real estate that will at least perform at 25 to 35% a year. And basically that's what I'm buying. It takes the least time, it takes the least effort, it takes the least risk. And if I buy 2 homes, this person uses some equity, they buy some homes. Let's say they buy 2, 5 years later, they can trade them for 4 or 5. 5 years later, they can trade them for 10 or 15. 5 years later, they can trade them for 20 or 30. 20 years later, now they're sitting on a 10, 20, $30 million net worth, but it was all passive because it took the least time, the least effort, the least risk, made the most money, worked in up and down markets, and provided a service to people. So that's kind of my unique thing. And at some points, people say, Kris, I know that you do this for people now, but you can't scale that. Like at some point, you have to graduate to like multifamily, commercial. And for me, I'm like, no, I like, if that's what will make me unique, that people can't scale single, I'm going to do it. And that was 6,500 homes ago.
But I think you've inspired some people because I know Ryan Pineda is switching his strategy. He's kind of like, I don't want to do multifamily. I'm going all in on the single family. Could have been from, this has been the last 2 weeks, could have been from you coming to the conference. Who knows? And you have, Blackstone, they're doing like all single family. So I think a lot of people are jumping more on that. Could be inspired from you. Who knows?
Where do you think the market is going though? Because I feel like that was a good strategy probably the last 5 years. Do you think we're having like a downturn, and do you think it's still going to work effectively in this market?
Good question. So if you look at the trajectory on single family for the next 20 years, the World Economic Forum predicted by 2025 that we were going to start seeing a shift in real estate moving from the hands of humans to large corporations.
Yeah.
And in the next 10 years, it's projected at the $50 billion that is currently being invested by hedge funds into real estate, that we're going to have 10% market share lost to corporations. In other words, we are predicting that life and real estate and automobile industry, everything will be provided as a service, which is very sad, by the way, because what we're doing is we're actually pulling American dream out of people. We're pulling financial success out of people. When people retire these days, right now, age 65, they have on average $255,000 for retirement. They have more net worth in their home than that. And so you remove that from people, it's dangerous. So the reason why they're going into markets, and I'm competing with Blackstone and other large firms, is because they see the trend and they see that in all the real estate market, single family, we're missing 6.5 million homes. As soon as the Fed drops rates, prices are going to boom like crazy again. And the hedge funds know it. So I'm trying to warn as many people as possible and say, hey, do this. And if you're not going to do it, I'll do it with you. I'll partner with you. I go 50-50 with people all the time. They load up on their 401ks and IRAs and equity. We go out into the market. We buy this stuff together. We split the profits. And I help people outperform the stock market 27-1. Now they have a retirement worth celebrating. And it's because that's what's happening in the real estate game. So when we say crash, there's not going to be a crash. Downturn is going to be ultra minor. We're going to get a new president in the next 2 years. And when that happens, before that happens, Biden's got to do something to fix the economy to try to look good. And in trying to look good, he's going to have to bring the rates down. And when that happens, real estate's going to go freaking through the nose. So I'm buying as much as I possibly can, kind of like I did in 08. 08 was the best time, was the last best of all times in the game of real estate. And I've waited over a decade for the market to turn as good as it is right now. So the media is doing a great job telling everyone it's the worst of times, interest rates, mortgages are costing $1,000 more, prices have gone up, blah, blah, blah. They're doing such a great job screwing over the consumers, but the investors, we are having a heyday right now.
So you're just paying the high interest. You're like, I'm getting good deals, so I'm just going to pay the high interest?
Interest is relative. Like over the last 50 years, the average interest rate sat around 6%. Paying, like we got used to for a decade to the idea of free money at 2 and 3 and 4%.
Yeah.
6 and 7% is not a high interest rate. This is 50-year average normal stuff. By the way, people get concerned all the time with the wrong stuff. So for example, if I'm going to be an investor and lay cash out, there's only one thing you should be concerned with. It's not the strategy. It's not the interest rate. It's not the debt. The only thing you should concern yourself with are 3 letters, ROI. How is my money performing? Return on investment. And so if I were to tell you, hey, when interest rates were really low, I was making 28% on my money, but now the interest rates are at 7%. Now I'm only making 32% a year on my money. Well, all of a sudden, who cared about the interest rates going up? My ROI just went up. And you have to ask, what's more important? Caring about the detail that doesn't matter or the KPI that does? Because ROI is the performance. And at the end of the day, should we be caring about anything else than the performance of our money and a financial strategy?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I think just for us, because we're in the luxury market, so our minimum is like $1.2 million. So when the interest rate rises 1%, it's an extra.
We're priced out. It was the worst idea ever.
Yeah, it was an extra $10,000 a month in interest that we were coming out of pocket for that we hadn't. You know, when you're in the higher market, it's like each point really means a lot to you.
But that's why also.
But that is where strategy does matter. So you're bringing up a really good point. When I say that I compared all 30 strategies, one of them was luxury real estate.
Yeah.
Luxury works in certain markets better than other markets.
Right.
And it's why, as a core strategy, I didn't go into it. By the way, I have so many buddies that crush it in luxury, but this last year, they're not exactly thrilled to be in the space. There will be a time when they will be, but with my average purchase price being $225,000, when rates go up or down, guess what I say? Who cares?
Yeah.
Higher interest rates means more freaked out people. Prices are going to drop. I'm going to get better deals. My ROI is going up. Thank you, Fed. Keep the rates high. Keep it coming, baby, because it doesn't impact me because I got a strategy that says whether the market is up or down, that doesn't matter to me. And I needed that. And now that was 20 years ago. And I've now been through 2 of these massive economic shifts. And I'm like, shoot, this survives the test of time, because 2008, the last time it was that bad, that was nearing great like depression stuff. Wasn't that bad, but that's the closest it had ever gotten to being that bad.
And how was it for you? How much real estate did you own at that point in 2008, and how much were you affected?
So right before 2008, I had a close friend of mine making fun of me. He was saying, Kris, you know what they're all saying about you behind your back? Because he was part of a group of people that were buying the high-end luxury stuff. And like, dude, I just bought this $1.2 million house. My net worth is now worth 2.5. My net worth just went up $1 million because of this strategic purchase. Krohn, you got to do like 20 properties to make that kind of money. And I'm like, you're right, I do. And then 6 months later, when the market tanked, he lost all his properties. I had all my properties, and $1 million house in a down market can go down to 700,000 real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a 700,000 might go down to a half, and a $500,000 might go down to 400, and a 400 might go down to 325, and a 325 might go down to 280, and 280 might go down to 260. My average purchase price at the time was under 200 grand. So all I felt was the market giving me a bump. I didn't care. In fact, when everyone stopped buying and all these mass foreclosures came, that's when I started going to the auction blocks and buying thousands of homes 5 years later, because I knew that one thing was going to solve the real estate mess.
Yeah.
Sex. People aren't going to stop having sex when the market goes down. If anything, they lose
I was
their
like,
jobs.
did I hear him right? I
did.
thought our audio
I'm sorry,
was
I'm not
off.
trying to be vulgar. I'm not trying to be vulgar. I'm telling you that real estate is a function of population.
Yeah.
So when we make babies, the demand for real estate goes up. And I knew that even though the economy was down, it didn't mean that population doesn't go down when the economy goes down.
Right.
It's going to keep rising. So I bought all this real estate for $100,000, $120,000, $130,000. These were $350,000 homes. 5 years later, there was such a pent up demand that all of a sudden the market exploded in growth again. I made my investors over $100 million in those 5 years. And my number one regret,
They didn't buy more.
I didn't buy more. I wish I had bought 10 times more, but I was young. It was my first rodeo. I was like in my late 20s. And I told myself the next time it happens, I am going to hold nothing back. I'm going to go full primal on the market. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, we started in the wrong market.
Yeah, no, we always thought, I mean, we teach this now because I think luxury is so, like, we have a community of girls and they're just like always asking us like, oh, we want to flip $1 million houses. And we're like, honestly,
It looks way sexier
stay
than
below
it
the median,
is.
especially when you're getting started. If you're going to lose $5,000, don't lose 200 grand.
Yeah.
And so it's so much better of a strategy. I want to know though, since you are competing, a lot of these hedge funds are going, at least in our market in LA, we're still getting 5 offers on properties at this point. It wasn't in, December and January. That was like a lull time. But how are you still finding great deals?
Right now, I'm finding more than ever before, and the
Okay.
market has only softened 1% nationwide. So it's amazing how fear drives perception.
Yeah.
People saw all these prices go up, and when the media just complains like crazy about how awful this is, people are going to become nervous and they're going to make really dumb decisions. Now, whether the economy is strong or going down, you guys know this. One of my companies, I'm partnered up with Carlos Reyes. We do all of these flips. We do all these wholesale deals. We use a lot of data and strategies for sifting through like 20, 30, 50,000 records a month. We do a lot of paid ads and pay-per-click. And so the deals are 100% out there. If people have a hard time finding the deals, all they have to do is adjust their marketing strategy. And for me, I lean on a lot of automation versus manual. And so that's what we're doing is we're using a lot of tech to sift through a lot and do a lot of research so that we can find the really good deals. And so the deals are actually out there in greater abundance right now. I'm picking up better buys right now than I was certainly a year ago because the market was hot for 10 years. For 10 years straight, month over month, things just went up. They never went down.
Yeah.
This is, there is some relief, that I'm feeling right now because my strategies are working better right now than they have been for quite some time.
Are your marketing strategies AI based? Like, are you doing a lot of AI nowadays?
Yes. Yeah. I implement AI in everything that I possibly can. If you take it, like, go back to Leave It to Beaver, like, you and I don't really get that reference. We've only heard of it. This was a show in the 50s that kind of showed the nuclear family with a mom and a dad and a kid or two. And back then, daddy went to work and made enough money to pay for his family. By the 80s, you needed dual income to try to figure out how to pay the same bills.
Yeah.
You fast forward right now to the early 2000s, you need 3 jobs to make the same kind of money for the lifestyles that we have today. And now it has only gotten worse. This is why I've written books on this. I educate people and I train people on how to build multiple streams of income. For your listeners, I'm giving my books away for anyone that wants them, or I say, come to my events or connect with me or do a free wealth strategy session. Let me show you how to build wealth. And that's because I'm trying to help people understand you need, like, right now, if you're trying to solve your financial problems with a job, that's laughable. Like, even Gen Z gets it. 94% of them want the flexibility of owning their own business. They do not want to have a job. College is already dead. People just don't know it yet. You're not special when you have a degree because everyone has a degree. The world is changing cataclysmically. What people are going to need to do is learn how to leverage AI to build more side hustles, more businesses, because they need more streams of income. And I can't say that loud enough.
So what's the number one way that you use AI in real estate?
Well, this first strategy is actually not AI. I use a lot of AI in how I manage people and perform functions.
Amazing.
And AI is not exactly intelligent enough yet to do an entire function from A to Z without someone moderating it, giving it commands. So what it means is I'm hiring less people and I'm using AI to augment. This is driving margin back up, which is something that you need when you're in an economic winter cycle like we are right now.
Right.
So I use AI for social media. I use AI for copywriting, for creating websites, for posting for me. I use it for all sorts of functions. I use it crazy in my sales team. Fuel.ai has increased appointment setting tenfold, where people are having entire conversations with AI and booking appointments. Sales are up 500% because of it. So I use AI everywhere. In real estate, so I'm using it to make human beings super efficient.
Yeah.
In a lot of the marketing strategies, I'm really using AI predominantly for machine learning, which isn't quite at an artificial intelligence level. And that machine learning is doing enough for me. But a lot of it is querying data and then automatically sending out marketing messages and blasts and texts and emails and scraping data and mass marketing to basically get leads dropped in. And then some of it is manual. Like, I'll take all those leads and I'll drop it to a call center overseas, and they will call until they can get a qualified appointment and finally put it back in a member of my team's lap and says, this person has loads of equity. They're highly motivated. Go strike a deal. And that's one of the top ways I am finding deals.
Right. I like that.
And do you feel like with the AI boom, and I know all of our business owner friends right now are replacing real people with AI just because they don't need as many employees, just because they can make it so much more efficient. Do you think that's going to lead, though, to more of an economic downturn just because of the loss of jobs?
No. By 2025, World Economic Forum predicted that we'll have 85 million jobs worldwide transferred over to AI. And, back when people were farmers and they were scared of the Industrial Revolution, they thought, for our population, all of a sudden, we're not going to have jobs because, the immigrants are going to come and take our jobs and, all the farmers are going to get lost. We're just going through a transformation. We're going to close one door. We're going to open a new one. AI is going to start doing more menial tasks, repetitive tasks in the next 5 years. Being a lawyer is not going to be that special. Being an accountant is not going to be that special. Copywriting, delivering the news is not going to be that special. AI is going to do most of this.
Yeah.
You're going to need to find a different job. You're going to have to evolve. And that's why I'm telling people, the most intelligent evolution that you can do is through some type of entrepreneurship or business ownership, because AI is also a gift. It's not about the fear of loss. It's actually, look at the opportunity, step into this, embrace this. Are you kidding me? This is the most privileged opportunity to be alive. I was proud of having all of my employees representing Kris Krohn in 1,000 places at once. I get 10 million views on my social a week. With AI, I feel like I'm in 10,000 places at once. I feel like I have the most intelligent people in a computer at my fingertips that are just waiting at my beckoning call for my creativity to deliver my next command of what I want them to do. So ChatGPT currently represents a 9.1% market share amongst Americans. Basically 3% of America uses it. It got to 1 million users in 5 days. It's the fastest adoption that we've ever seen on the planet. And whereas in 1998, the internet was the biggest invention of all time, the internet was the what? AI is the how and the who, because it'll tell you like what is valuable. Like, oh, look at this online thing called an encyclopedia. Everything you want to know, you can Google and find. ChatGTP is the first primary engine. There's now over 1,000 of them. And what it does is it says, this is actually how you do the what. And you can now ask it to do some of the whoing of the how.
Wow.
That sounded a little Dr. Seussy when I said it.
No, I love it. Well, and for our audience, I would love to know, to bring it back down for them a little bit, because now you inspire them to get into real estate, inspire them to build a business. But for real estate, if they're just getting started, what would you recommend them to do?
Yeah, so a couple of things. If you're okay, I'll drop a link with a bunch of free tools.
Yeah,
And if you go to freewealthgift.com/blondes, BLONDES, except it's technically a blonde and a brunette. If you go to freewealthgift.com/blondes, what it'll do is I'll give you access to some really great tools. One of them is just go get a wealth strategy session. Talk to someone that says, hey, if Kris Krohn were in your shoes, what would he do? Because I can give every listener right here today a free custom game plan. And trust me, I could be birthed in this moment in anyone's shoes, and I'm going to be a millionaire faster than you and anyone else, because I know how to rearrange your assets, whether you have a lot or few, to build wealth. So everyone can have a free wealth strategy session. But then I'm also giving, just because of, who you ladies are to me, I'm giving a free ticket to one of my upcoming events, which people pay $2,000 for one of those tickets. So that's a pretty valuable gift to spend 4 days and do an immersive financial training with me. And then lastly, my book is there for free as well. So grab a copy of it and get some knowledge that can help pave the way.
When is the conference?
I've got one so here in Utah, I own my own event center. Got tired of renting out hotels and got particular about the way I like things done. And so it's a very, very high tech, very, very, very special house that we've created here for wealth building. And I've got one coming up in August, one in September, one in October. There's always something going on. So if you click if you go to freewealthgift.com/blondes, you can talk to my team and they can help you redeem that free gift as well.
Wow.
We'll have to go.
I love that. I know, right?
We'll bring our girls with us. That'll be awesome. We'll tell them to come with us.
Yeah, please. Ladies, I want to have you as my VIPs, and we will roll out the red carpet and share a really, really cool experience together.
Wow, I love that.
I love that. Just to wrap it up on a personal note with you, I know you've had a really, really beautiful long marriage, which is really inspirational. I think a lot, especially for entrepreneurs. We've seen a lot of entrepreneurs really lack in that department because they have to sell themselves to their business. And so what's your recommend? She really stood by your side when you were going crazy and building that business, which she sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But what's your advice on building a long marriage with a business?
I think that the world has lied to us and told us that we're busy and that balance is not possible. And I just got to a point where I said, I behave that way, and that's why that is what is dished up. And so I decided to change my belief system. I limited my hours. I raised my standards. I demanded more money for less of my time. And I have a definition of success because when I was 19 years old, I had a near-death experience. I almost drowned in the ocean trying to save my sister's life. And when I came out of that ocean, I became obsessed with trying to figure out, God, why was my life spared and why am I alive? And that soul search has brought me down some very interesting paths. And what it's caused me to do is live every day like I'm dying. And so I just imagine that tomorrow the proverbial bus is going to come and hit me and I'm going to be gone. How will I know on my deathbed that my life was worth living and that I honored my life? And for me, it comes down to 3 things every day. Before 9 a.m., all of my relationships that are important to me have to have leveled up. My health by 9 a.m. has to have leveled up. I am stronger, fitter, faster than I was the day before. And by 9 a.m., my finances, I have to be wealthier. That means more active income. That means more passive income. That means better resource allocation. So basically every day, healthier, happier, wealthier. And I have a routine that starts at 4 a.m. because by 9 a.m., everything important for the day, I want it done. And so my advice is let go of this lie that you can't have balance and that being married to an entrepreneur means that you're destined for, the 100-hour work week when it's a total lie.
I
Wow.
love that. That's incredible.
We always talk about balance because we've had times where we were really stressed out and it affected our relationships. And we're like, we need balance. And then we're happier and we're healthier for our business as
then
well.
you show up better to your business
Yeah.
as well. You optimize your time a lot better, I feel like. Oh, by the way, I saw this video of you. Was it him where he was talking about like how he trained himself not to like look at other girls?
Yeah, it was you. She sent me this on TikTok and I said, that's who we're having on our
I thought
podcast.
that was so cool because that's how like my boyfriend is, and it's rare that you find. I mean, not to shit on
so
guys.
for people
but
listening, he trained himself. You trained yourself not to look at other women, just so you something. It's all about your mind and your power of your mind.
Right.
And we were like, wow, this is a stand up guy.
Yeah.
Because most guys, they look and they think, oh, it's fine, it's just looking. But
you stop yourself in the beginning.
It's anything you surround yourself with.
I like to look at the beginning and the end of all things and ask myself when I want to arrive. I like to look at the end, that's death. But then I like to look at the beginning, and that's the antecedent. So, for example, my wife and I have been married for 21 years. We have 4 teenagers right now. We love them so much. And what poses the greatest risk to my family, I think, is if I spend my sexual energy in the wrong way. It starts with a little bit of porn or checking out a girl because I believe that that's okay. And I hang out with a bunch of dudes that reinforce you can look at the menu, you just don't order.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, it's a gateway drug and one thing leads to another and leads to another. And I just set a goal in the beginning. I said, I don't want to do divorce. I am a one-woman man. And we are going to figure it out because whatever problems I have in this relationship, they will manifest differently in a different relationship because I'm the common denominator. Until I fix me, it's never going to get better, which means the woman I've chosen is the woman for me as long as I keep growing me. So I basically said, okay, antecedents in psychology is the start of something.
Yeah.
So what is the start to losing love? What is the start to a relationship starting to crumble? What is the start to the erosion process? And I think part of it is, number one, no longer investing in your relationship, becoming transactional instead of unconditional. And number two, looking where you shouldn't. And so I basically said, fine, then every day my relationship gets to be stronger than the day before because I'm going to invest in her. And number two, I'm going to train myself not to look at, and by the way, like I'm a man, I see all these beautiful women, but if I allow myself to start, then at some point you're going to go down that road. And I don't want to.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow. So you guys can see right now, he's such a well-rounded guy. We've both been following him and watching his stuff. And so that's an important person to look up to. And so he has so much content online. We're going to leave the link below of ways to get that wealthy call with him, the strategy call, go to a conference. We'll set up something where we plan with you girls to bring a bunch of you guys. We'll go to a conference. But thank you so much for taking your time out of your day. I know we all got a ton of value, and it was really great to meet you. Hopefully we'll meet you in person one day, but thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Make sure
Thank
you guys
I really
like
appreciate it. It's been great to be here. And you guys please come to one of my events, bring your team. I will tell you that it's not a real estate conference. It is wealth building. It includes real estate. It includes building businesses, but it also has a lot of experiential training processes. So we put the chairs away and we walk on fire. We walk on glass. We break arrows on our throats. We do crazy. And what it does is it allows people to level up and break through their fears, their limitations, the things in life that hold them back. When someone says, Kris, teach me how to build wealth, I'm like, great. I can give you a strategy or I can help you like get out of your own way.
Right.
And the strategy is not nearly as important as learning how to get out of your own way.
I love that because it's not just about real estate. It's about your mindset and things that unfold when you change your mindset. It could be way more than real estate. You have way more than real estate, the business that you've created. So we just want to thank you so much. It's been incredible and I've learned so much.
And always, girls, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Blondes Building Equity. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know who you guys want to have on, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.